Hey, everybody, welcome back to this amazing channel. Today, we have an incredible return guest, Mr. Adam Sudd. He was on recently talking about how he reversed his diabetes through lifestyle and diet. And he's a behavioral and nutrition researcher and so much more, a speaker. And you guys all love him so much. He is so passionate about this topic. And diabetes is facing so many people today. It's a big crisis. So it's something we need to bring more attention to. And in our last interview, Adam talked about his twin brother, Bobby, who we have in our presence today. We're so lucky, and how Bobby reversed his diabetes as well with Adam. So we're going to hear the story. I can't wait. So let's hop into it. Hey, guys, how's it going?
It's going really, yeah, it's going really well. We're excited. So we're actually like right next to each other. So this is my brother right here.
I love it. And you guys are twins. So,
Yeah.
yeah, Adam, take us through quick, give us a quick summary for those who don't know you, how you reversed your diabetes, and then introduce us to what happened with Bobby.
Yeah. So we did an episode, I think it was 2 episodes ago, where I talked about my personal story. And then the last episode that was published with me was we're talking about what is insulin resistance, what causes it, and how to reverse it. And the reason why I became so passionate about understanding what's actually taking place when we talk about insulin resistance, when we talk about diabetes, when we talk about high blood pressure, high cholesterol, because those were things that I was struggling with. I really wanted to understand what was taking place. The reason is because I was suffering with every one of those things. In 2012, I was about somewhere between 300 and 350 pounds. I was undiagnosed diabetic with high blood pressure and high cholesterol. I was a struggling drug addict. I was depressed. I was anxious. I was addicted to fast food and stimulants and opiates. And I found myself in rehab. People can go back and listen to the podcast. Highly recommend that you do. But in rehab, I got diagnosed with all those conditions. And they were telling me what my future was going to look like because I had very advanced type 2 diabetes. I had very advanced high cholesterol and I had very high blood pressure and I was significantly overweight. Like here's the deal, Adam. These things are not going anywhere. The doctor, unfortunately, was telling me an old story that these are genetic conditions and there's not much you can do about it. And so you are going to likely experience cardiovascular events, lose your eyesight, hearing, potentially lose limbs. These are very real. And so we're going to medicate you for the rest of your life so that we can try to push those events back as far as possible. But you have to stop using drugs. And I remember thinking, what a terrible prescription for change that is. I mean, why would I ever want to care for myself if no matter what I do, I'm going to have a cardiovascular event. I'm going to lose my eyesight. I'm going to lose my hearing. I'm going to lose limbs. I'm going to be on insulin. Like that's certain. Why would I ever want to care about taking care of my life if my life doesn't feel like a place I want to be a part of? And so thankfully, I had been inspired by a man named Rip Esselstyn about a year before where he shared the value and the power of plant-based nutrition. And I just told myself like right then and there, I was like, well, I can't be sick and sober. I have to have a life that feels like a safe, secure, and exciting place to be. So I decided that day that I was going to adopt a plant-based lifestyle to start to what I call reverse engineer aliveness. Because if my life could feel like an exciting place to show up and be present, then I could be sober. I think we talked about, I said, sobriety requires presence, right? We
Mm-hmm.
have to be willing to be present in order to be sober. And so within 5 months, I reversed my diabetes, I reversed my heart disease, I lost about 175 pounds in total. I've been sober for 13 years, and I dedicated my life to understanding the impact of nutrition on human health outcomes in both the insulin resistance and mental health. And so that's where my story is.
And you had really high blood sugar markers at times, right? I think sometimes your fasting was like 9 or 1,200 or
No,
something
no.
nuts, right?
My fasting blood sugar when I got up was 400, which people's normal fasting blood glucose is below 100. So mine was four times the healthy amount for fasting. My A1C was 12%. So for anyone who doesn't know, a healthy A1C, which is a biomarker that tells us what your average blood glucose is over a 24-hour period for 3 months, a healthy A1C is less than 5.7%. Pre-diabetes is 5.7 to 6.4%. And anything above 6.4 is considered type 2 diabetic. So mine was a 12%. It was very diabetic. And my cholesterol was over 300, and my blood pressure at the time was like 210 over 110. I was in a bad spot.
Yeah. Okay. And before we get into, I can't wait to talk to Bobby in a second too. Before we do that, tell us, knowing what you know now, what do you think it was that caused you to get in that bad spot?
Oh man. Well, if people go back and listen to the episode that we had where I shared my story, you'll hear all of these kind of moments in my life where I just kept getting this sense that there was something inherently wrong with me and that life did not feel like a safe, secure, or hopeful place to be. In fact, it felt like a very painful and difficult place. And my future continually felt like it was going to be a much worse place to be than today. And like I mentioned in the podcast, the conversation we had, if you live in that state long enough, you're
Hmm.
going to start to try to relieve your discomfort in the easiest way possible. And drugs were introduced to my life in high school. And oh my gosh, talk about convenient relief from discomfort. When you are that depressed and anxious, drug use looks like self-care. Drug use looks and feels exactly like solving the problem you can't solve. And the thing is, I like to tell people is like when you first start becoming a drug user, you wake up the next day and your life isn't ruined, right? You don't wake up to the day after
Hmm.
using drugs and you're not homeless. You haven't wrecked your relationships. You haven't lost
True. It
money.
takes
Like
some
none of
time
these
for
things that
that.
you hear about have happened. In fact, you actually feel like life is a better place to be. And so you're like, well, look, I'm just going to stay here for a while. Like, look, nothing bad has happened. I can just stay here for a little bit. And so that's kind of where it happened.
But then that's not a place to stay, you guys.
Not a
No,
place. It's
no.
misguided. It's completely misguided.
It
Yeah.
is just the devil sucking you in. So you fixed your problems and you were like, wow, this is crazy. And then Bobby comes into play. So Bobby's your twin brother. So hey, Bobby, how's it going?
Good. How you doing?
Good. Yeah. Thank you so much for coming on. I can see you're passionate about the topic with your hat and everything. I'm loving it. And so you were you having similar problems to your brother? And then your brother was like, hey, move in with me or something. I'll help you fix these problems.
Yeah, and he has been trying for like 2 or 3 years. Um, and I was like 290, 300 pounds, type 2 diabetic, everything he was without the addiction to drugs. And eventually, after 2 or 3 years of bothering me and asking me, and I could see that it would work, which is the crazy thing. I mean,
Yeah.
here's genetically identical to me and it worked for him. And someone who I know will never lie to me. And I think this is really important when we're talking about trying to inspire or get someone to change. We have to be aware of how scary that is and where that fear is coming from. And for me, my life was pretty bankrupt. Like I had a job I didn't like. I was very overweight for the first time in my life. And I basically just if I wasn't working, I was at home gaming online. I had some friends that way, but that was pretty much it. The only source of pleasure and joy in my life was the food I was eating.
Which
That
is
was it.
common for a
So
lot of people, I think. Yeah.
it is. And so like the reason it took so long was because I had to be willing to say, I'm going to give up the only source of pleasure in my life on the gamble that what my brother's telling me is true. You
Hmm.
know?
Yeah, that's the big point. I mentioned it when I talked about my story, spending those 6 days with Rip Esselstyn at his retreat about 2 years before I checked into rehab, and here he is presenting all this information, and then watching it and seeing even some results after 6 days in myself, and going, this I can tell that this works, but what I have to be willing to do is do all of this alone, give up what was allowing me to escape a life that was too painful a place to be on the gamble that I have the grit to do this for a year. Like, and that it would work. Like, I can tell that it worked for Rip, but Rip's been an athlete his whole life. Rip has never had to deal with what I was dealing with. And so I'm like, well, of course you love it. I have to believe that I'm capable of the same thing while feeling unbelievably miserable. Like, that's quite a gamble. That's quite a leap of faith.
Yeah. And I think some people think if they give up those foods and they give up the drinking or any of the drugs or anything, that it's just going to be misery, right? They think it's just going to be misery. But is it better from both of your perspective, giving all of that? Is it a better life?
Yeah,
course.
that's the thing. I think that's really where the paradox of change really happens is that your life feels like you're in debt, right?
Mhm.
Emotionally, physically, spiritually, you feel like you're in debt. And in order to get out of it, you have to feel like you've gone deeper in debt first. And you have to be willing to do that thing for, 2, 3, 4 weeks until you get a real sense of like, hang on a second, this is the path out of here. But it's not going to feel like that 2, 3 days in. You've got to be willing to, as I say, be comfortable being uncomfortable. You have to trust that this thing that has been proven and demonstrated time and time again in research and in case studies and in observational data, that you're not uniquely different. You are part of the majority of people that this will work for. It's going to happen. Just don't stop. Just keep going. And eventually the results come in enough where you get a little excited. You go, oh my gosh, I feel like
Mm.
this after 3 weeks. What is 3 months going to feel like? It seems like maybe for the first time I may have figured something out that I've been looking for a long time. And so now I'm willing to do this thing a little bit longer. But that first 2 weeks, that is an extraordinary amount of effort.
Yeah, and once you can get through that and get through those hard times, and if you think about it in the scheme of life, it's not that long, right? If you have to feel like crap or get used to it for like 2 to 4 weeks, it's not that long for like to see like the rainbow that's on the other side. And I think it's so important we talk about this because how many Americans really, like what's the percentage of Americans that have diabetes or that are undiagnosed? It's a huge number, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So right now, about a third of Americans are either in the pre-diabetic or type 2 diabetic state. And that number is expected to be one half of Americans in the next 10 to 15 years. That's remarkable. So, and not only that, so we have about 100 million Americans who are in the pre-diabetic or type 2 diabetic state, and another 1 to 10 million who are walking around undiagnosed as pre-diabetic or type 2 diabetic. So it's a significant population.
Yeah, it is. And it's important we talk about it, especially with the way the kids are these days. I see them when I was little and I grew up, we were all outside playing and maybe we ate a little bit of junk food, but we got so much physical activity that it didn't really affect us that much because there was still overall a lot of like healthy food too. I feel like in so much physical activity. These days, I look outside, I'm like, where are the kids? And then they want to just be on their iPads. They want to be eating all this processed food. It's like, no. So we need videos like this so Bobby, you moved in, right? So after Adam fixed his problems, you moved right in together. And take us through what happened. What was the protocol? How was the experience? I think from what I heard, like 6 weeks and the problems were gone, I think, but correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah. Yeah. The sickness was gone, but in 6 weeks, what's that quote? The sickness is gone, but the infection still remains, kind of a thing. But yeah, I moved from Austin to LA into his apartment, and uh, for me, 100 is easier than 90, so I was going to do it entirely plant-based from day one. Yeah.
What we decided was we were in the Philadelphia airport, and I was like, dude, this is it. Like, you gotta come, just move in with me for 3 months, and I'm going to design an environment where it's impossible for you to fail, right? And I've already done that because that's how I live my life. Like, if you move into my apartment and all you do is eat the meals and eat the foods that you find in my apartment, and then you come with me to the gym and we go for walks and you live in my lifestyle, I guarantee you we solve this problem. Period. End of story. I guarantee. Like, and all I said is, will you at least do that? Just give me the chance to prove myself right to you, and then at the end of those 3 months, you have the right to leave. You can go back to your old lifestyle, but I just want you to see that this is a problem we can solve right now. And so he moved in, and we went to
Matt Letter.
yeah. You've seen the movie Forks Over Knives, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So we went to in LA. There is a wellness center that was run by Whole Foods Market called the Whole Foods Market Medical Wellness Center. It was a wellness center that was offered to their team members, so they could go and get lifestyle medicine at the Southern Pacific headquarters. And Matt Letterman was the doctor, one of the doctors in the movie Forks Over Knives, and he was their medical director. And so I reached out to him and I said, here's what I'm going to do. I want my brother to come live a whole food plant-based lifestyle. He has diabetes, he has high blood pressure. we need to do an intake visit. And so we went out to Pasadena and we established Bobby as a patient with Dr. Matt Letterman just to do labs, just to like for us to talk about what we're going to do. We're sitting in there. Obviously, yes, Bobby has diabetes. Yes, he has high blood pressure. Yes, he has weight to lose. And Matt Letterman is talking to Bobby about his medicine. Remember what he said? We were in the
Yeah. So I had brought my medicine with me. Matt asked me to bring it. It was a plastic bag full of different pill bottles. He said, "Let me see this." And he said, "So what are you going to be doing?" And I said, "Well, I'm going to be doing what Adam does every day. I'm going to be living his life identical to him." And so then he took the bag of medication and just threw it in the trash.
No
like
way.
he said, if you're honestly going to do this, we can get rid of these medications today. But you have to guarantee me that you're going to do that. Otherwise, we will need to put you back on the medication. But these medications are only necessary because the lifestyle you're currently living is encouraging these conditions. If you promise that you're going to live exactly as Adam does in his home, we will no longer need you to be on these at all right now, which is quite a profound statement.
And thank God, Bobby, you were so receptive to it. And who knows, maybe this saved your life. Maybe Adam saved your life, or essentially you saved your own life by taking the action. A lot of like kudos to you, because a lot of people just can't get the discipline, even in like the face of like a big health crisis, right? A lot of people are just hooked on this stuff and they can't get over it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it definitely saved my life for sure.
One of the things that I was so confident in was that number one, I was confident in obviously in the lifestyle. I was confident in the dietary pattern and its ability to encourage insulin sensitivity, right? So I knew that that was going to happen. The other thing that I was really confident in was the fact that one of the biggest things that I use in coaching is something called evolutionary psychology, right? Which is there's an amazing evolutionary psychologist named Doug Lisle who has an incredible TED Talk called Pleasure Trap, and he's written a book called The Pleasure Trap. And the evolutionary psychology is essentially your psychological and motivational architecture. It's the architecture inside of you that helps compel you to behave one way or the other. And what it's trying to do is it's trying to take information from the environment, give you a signal that what you've done is either good for your survival or bad for your survival. And the way that it does this is through a guidance system that we know as dopamine, right? Dopamine is like an internal guidance system that's trying to help you figure out what's the right move to make. And it's done this in a very specific environment. It's crafted this guidance system in an environment of scarcity and competition, where what you need to get in order to survive is very scarce. There's not a lot of it, and there's certainly not a lot of replacements for it. And you're not the only one looking for them, right? So you're competing against other organisms, and sometimes those other organisms are dangerous to you. So it's scarce, competitive, and dangerous. And the last thing is it's expensive. It costs you a lot of time and energy to get them. So you have to have some kind of mechanism that helps you figure out how to get the most for the least. How do you get the most amount of calories for the least amount of effort? How do you get the most amount of resources for the least amount of time? How do you do that? Dopamine is what helps us figure out which choice is the better choice. And in that environment, the highest calorie choice in the environment is the best choice. In the modern environment, it's the exact opposite type of caloric environment. It's very abundant, it's very convenient, it's very repeatable, and it's very calorie dense. And your guidance system has no understanding that this is occurring, right? So most people are stuck in this situation where they've habituated themselves to supernormal food. In order to feel like they're doing well, they're eating the highest calorie dense foods in the environment. And when they ask themselves not to, it feels wrong. It feels like it's a poor choice for their survival. They actually feel like like I feel bad. This doesn't feel good. And in fact, that's exactly what's supposed to be happening. Your survival instincts are not supposed to encourage you to make a choice that gets you less energy for more time. It's not a good survival instinct. And so most people will try to grit their way through that environment, outcompete it long enough through determination and willpower to be successful. What I found to be the best strategy is to instead make your environment look like the life you want. If you were to look at your environment, if you were to look at your surroundings, does it look like the person you want to become? Or does it look like the person you're trying to move away from? Does it look like your diseases? or does it look like the health you want? I knew Bobby was coming into an environment that looked exactly like the life we wanted him to live. So simply by being there, he didn't have to rely on his willpower to make good choices. He just had to not enjoy a meal every now and then. That's okay. He'll make it to tomorrow. That's fine. So I was confident that he would be successful simply because the environment didn't allow him too much opportunity to fail.
Yeah, this is like the best way to do it. It's so much easier to do it together, right?
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely.
It was great.
Yeah, like must have been so much better than doing it on your own. Do you think you would have done it on your own otherwise, Bobby, or no? Like, do you think you would have found this path otherwise?
I mean, that's an indefensible argument, but uh, I I'd say 80%. I'm 80% sure I wouldn't.
And
Yeah.
where do you think you'd be today if you didn't make these like plant-based changes and make all these changes?
I mean, I don't even want to think about it. I was barely living a life worth living at the time.
Yeah.
I certainly wouldn't have taken my own life because I made a promise to my brother decades ago that I would never do that. But I would be in a very painful place, that's for sure.
You know,
Wow.
one of the best things about it is getting to witness that those moments where you're confronted with the truth, right? So I'm a big fan of the saying that if life isn't as it should be, try telling the truth, right? Or the idea that the true test of your character is how much truth you can tolerate, right? And so when there were those moments when Bobby was confronted with the fact that, oh, today for dinner, unfortunately, sorry, it's another plant-based recipe on day 12, right? And it's like he had a tough day. He was frustrated, he was angry for whatever reasons. And it wasn't what he wanted, but it's what he truly needed. And to watch him like get angry about it and then do it anyways, like to watch someone shed themselves of that part of themselves that doesn't serve them anymore. Like get angry about it. Like, why do I have to deal with this? I don't want to tolerate this discomfort right now. I hate this moment right now. And then do it anyways. Like I just like get so much pride in watching someone, certainly my twin brother, like be the person they want to be the most in life when it's hardest to do it. And like we ended up going back after 6 weeks and getting blood tests done. And Dr. Letterman said, just so you know, we can go ahead and remove diabetes diagnosis from your chart.
Yay, that's incredible in 6 weeks. And what would you guys say was the secret sauce for that? It was mostly like, what were you guys doing? What were you eating in a day? What were all like the changes taking place?
So we really did follow the lifestyle that I was living. And you know, one of the things about me is I'm the most boring eater you've ever met in your life. I really eat a lot of the same things every single day. So for breakfast, it was oatmeal with whatever fruit you want to put on top of it that we had. You know, we'd always have bananas and berries and stuff like that in the house. And you know, I always had like an enormous jar of cinnamon because a lot of people would joke that I didn't eat oatmeal with cinnamon on it. I ate cinnamon with oatmeal on it. Because I would put so much cinnamon on
So
my oatmeal.
cinnamon does really help blood sugar problems, you think, right? Like they
That's
say.
pretty gross.
He doesn't like how much cinnamon I would put on it, but so cinnamon has been shown to be valuable in blood glucose management simply because cinnamon, like most spices, is very anti-inflammatory. There's some data suggesting that supplementing with cinnamon and can impact blood glucose control, but really at the end of the day, it's the dietary pattern, the foundation that's driving that insulin sensitivity forward. So it started his day with oats, and then we go for a walk.
Okay, 1 second before the walk. Did you put any milk in the oatmeal or no? People on this channel, they want to know exactly. So you didn't do
Yeah.
any almond milk or milk, no milk. Okay.
Now we cook
No,
it in water,
Hmm.
and then we would
that's just my personal preference.
that's mine too. Like it's not a problem to put plant-based milk in your oats if you like it. I would steer away from the coconut milk because coconut milk is high in saturated fat, which we know from the last episode that of all the macronutrients, saturated fat seems to be uniquely insulting to insulin sensitivity. It seems to uniquely drive insulin resistance.
Yeah,
Yeah.
one thing that I think the plant-based community needs to be a little clearer on is that they tell you, you know, if you adopt this lifestyle, you can just eat whatever you want. as long as it's in these food groups, which I found not to be true.
It's not
Because I would
true.
want to eat like a bowl of cereal for dinner, and he would be like, "No, you can't have that for dinner." And like, okay, I'm gonna put avocado on everything. He's like, "No, you can't do that." You know?
What I would say is not that
I
you
agree
can't.
with you, Bobby, because I interview a lot of people, even some doctors who are like, no, as long as you're plant-based, like you can have as much cashews or as much avocado, as
That's
much
poor
coconut
advice.
as you want. But then the more I learn from you guys, the more I learn about this topic, I think maybe we do really need to watch even the plant fats, right?
Yeah, that's poor advice. At the
Well, especially if you're trying to lose weight or reverse disease.
yeah,
Hmm.
this idea that anyone can eat as much as they want and they'll lose weight is just really poor advice. That at the end of the day, we live in like I mentioned before, we live in an environment of caloric abundance. And every instinct in you is driving you to get slightly more than you need, right? Remember, we spent 99% of our evolutionary story trying to outcompete scarcity. Every instinct in you is designed to figure out how to get slightly more than you need. It is not a good idea in a scarce and competitive environment to get just enough. It's even worse idea to try to get less. It's a very good idea to get more than you need because if
Hmm.
tomorrow isn't guaranteed, getting more than you need is always the right thing to do. And that's exactly what your instincts are trying to get you to do even today. So this idea that you're just going to naturally get only what you need does not at all make sense to your instincts, right? So you want to be appropriate. You want to be like, okay, so what are my goals? What would I like to achieve by eating a plant-based diet? Then what you do is you decide what of the foods within the plant, of all the low-fat plant-based foods out there, what are the ones that best suit that outcome? Now, when you've done that, you can kind of loosen those guardrails. Like no one's going to eat enough bananas to be overweight. It's
Yeah.
just not going to happen, right? But if you ate only bananas, you've now displaced so many calories that could have included other incredibly important things like beans and grains and greens. So it is about what's appropriate to you, to your goals, and to the outcomes you're looking for. And I think that if we now live in an environment and in a time where we can be incredibly accurate, we
Hmm.
can track, we can measure, we can dial this thing up to get the best possible outcome we can for health. Why wouldn't we?
True. And okay, I know I interrupted there. We want to continue with the walk in the day and see exactly what you guys were doing. But I just want to ask quick before I forget. So I think the key here is whole foods. So like whole foods, real foods, cut the processed foods, cut the craps. But what are like real foods that are high in saturated fats that people should avoid or keep low? Like I'm gonna guess are cashews too, maybe, right?
So when it comes to hot foods that are high in saturated fat within in the plant, it's really coconut's really the only one that's truly high in saturated fat.
Even the water or just the meat?
No, just the meat. Yeah,
Okay.
coconut butter isn't high in fat at all. But coconut products are 91% saturated fat. I
No
want to put
way.
that into
Wow, that's
perspective for people.
crazy. Like I know people that like live off massive amounts of like coconut yogurt. Like that's
Is
91%.
91%. So put that in perspective, lard is 43% saturated fat. Now, I'm not trying to say lard is healthier than coconuts. Not what I'm saying. I'm just letting you know that just because it's a plant doesn't mean it's necessarily something that is devoid of things that could be harmful to your health, right? There's no perfect thing, right? So I think it's best to limit your consumption of things like coconut oil, coconut, yogurt, things like that. There's far more solutions out there for milks. Like I'm a big fan of flax milk. I think it's my favorite. It has a really great profile for omega-3s, and I think it tastes really good. I'm a huge fan of soy milk. Soy milk is arguably the most nutrient dense plant milk out there. Almond milk is great. It's a low calorie option. Oat milk is tastes really good. It's very healthy, but oat milk is a higher calorie plant milk than almonds, like two times as calorie dense
Is
as.
soy the lowest fat milk?
No, I believe that almond milk or pea milk might be the lowest fat milk out there. Probably pea.
Okay. And some people tell me, a lot of people say on this channel, you have to pick one side or the other. They say if you can be high fat but then you have to be low sugar. Like you have to, if you're going to consume any fruits, it has to be blueberries. You can do the high fat, not have insulin problems if you're doing the low sugar, or you can do the high sugar, but keep
Yeah.
the low fat. Do you think there's something to that in your experience and opinion or no?
So they're partly correct. So they're correct that if you want to do high fat for most of the time, you're going to have to be careful and cautious with carbohydrate intake because we talked about how high calorie, high fat diets drive insulin resistance, right? That's what really causes it. And so once you've insulted your insulin sensitivity, any carbohydrate consumption will cause a higher blood glucose excursion, or your blood glucose will rise higher and it might stay elevated longer. What that's demonstrating is that this is likely not the best pattern for you to live in, right? However, if you do a high carb, low fat diet, you can have a high fat meal every now and then. It won't be a problem. But if you do high fat all the time, if you have a high carbohydrate meal every now and then, it could be a problem, which demonstrates that really at the end of the day, we're much better off living on a higher carbohydrate, higher protein plant-based diet than prioritizing the fats.
I think the fats can make us feel not as energetic, a bit more lethargic. I think we actually feel better probably too on like the lower fat, right? Okay, so, right?
That's exactly.
Yeah, okay, so let's continue on. So Bobby was living with you. You guys were on this protocol, which I love, and you'd have the oatmeal for breakfast, then you'd go for a walk after the meal, right? Which is key.
Yeah, we wanted to encourage movement as much as possible. So one of the things I like to tell people is that just being in movement more burns more calories per day than just an extra 20 minutes at the gym, right? So your non-exercise activity thermogenesis, which is all the things that you do that are not exercise specific, that is far more of an opportunity to increase calorie expenditure than your exercise activity thermogenesis, or your EAT, which is all the calories your body uses in an exercise specific activity like running or jogging or going to the gym. Turns out that other than your base metabolic rate, the NEAT is where you use the most amount of energy. So just being in movement more, that was a really big priority.
That
Mm-hmm.
going to the gym, I was still too embarrassed to go to the gym.
Yeah.
Mm.
So yep, we would go walking. Thankfully, we lived in Southern California in Santa Monica, so we could just go out, walk, along the beach, get, 2 miles of walking in beautiful weather, and then come back and just do the rest of the day. And it was a great way to have a foundation of routine that kind of started your day in a positive way. You get up, you have this meal that you're going to have, it's
Mm-hmm.
aligned with your goals, and then you go for a walk. So if that frustrates you, or if there's any agitation about the day that you're worried about, you get to process it with your brother walking on the beach. It's the perfect way to start the day.
And I think it's critical timing to walk after that we try get some movement right after eating, right? Because that helps stabilize blood sugar.
That's exactly right. So one of the best things you can do after a meal is just go for a 15-minute brisk walk. Turns out that that's a great way to increase your blood glucose control in the post-meal window. And it also adds movement to your day.
Yeah. Okay. And okay. Just so we know for reference, when was all this happening? I think around 2016, right?
Was it 2016 or 2017? 2016. 2016. Yeah, January
2016.
4th of 2016 was day one. I remember that because January 3rd of 2016, he had like a say goodbye to your old life day of eating food. Like we went to like we got that macaroni pizza. Was it something like that?
Something like that.
Some kind of like crazy macaroni waffles or something like that, and then like a whole pizza at night. Like he was like, "This is my last day. I'm gonna have my farewell, meals." And yeah, that's the last time he ever ate meat.
Wow. No way.
Yeah.
I love that. And that's like 9 years ago, right? Yeah. 9 years ago.
Yeah.
Wow. That's incredible. I'm excited to hear too after like how you guys make this work long term. So let's get
Yeah.
back to the day. So you eat the oatmeal, you go for a walk, and then what's next? What's the rest of the day look like?
Yeah. So lunch was a rice and bean bowl with veggies and some kind of, oil-free sauce. And then dinner was the same thing. Rice and bean bowl. You could use different type of rice, different kind of bean. You could use a different kind of sauce. So even though it's technically the same ingredients, it feels like a different meal. Right.
Yeah,
So
we
one day,
also use like broccoli and cauliflower and things like that.
right, that's what I'm saying, like with veggies. Yeah. And so, you could use barbecue sauce one day, you could use marinara sauce, you could use salsa, you could use teriyaki sauce. And so the chickpeas, black beans, red beans, brown rice, black rice, white rice, whatever. It's like however you want these ingredients to feel like a different meal, even though they're technically the same, essentially the same thing at the end of the day.
And did you eat like as much as you want, or do you think it's really key not to overeat or that'll still cause insulin problems?
No, I ate pretty large portions.
Yeah.
Uh, I would say that I was never hungry after eating. Yeah, for sure. I was eating.
Okay.
Yeah, the great thing is that these foods are low in calorie density, meaning that
Hmm.
if you were to look at the calories per pound of every one of these foods, like let's take the potato. So potatoes are about 370 calories per pound. So what that means, if I was to take 1 pound of cooked potato and eat that entire pound of cooked potato, I would consume 370 calories. That's what calories per pound means, and that's calorie density. There was amazing research by a woman named Barbara Rolls. She did about 50 studies on calorie density and something called volumetrics, which is the study of how much volume people eat and why do they do that. Turns out that regardless of people's diet, we are designed by nature to consume between 3 and 5 pounds of food per day. Our
Hmm.
brain isn't really counting calories, it really counts volume. That's how we know we've consumed enough energy to survive. So if you were to think about that, right, 370 calories, if you were to eat 5 pounds of potatoes, which is about the most people eat per day, you'd end up in a calorie deficit. You couldn't overeat potatoes unless you intentionally tried to do it. Brown rice is about 450 calories per pound. Broccoli is 120 calories per pound. Bananas are 300. Berries are 180. It's like none of these foods are high enough in calorie density to where if you eat until you're satisfied, you're still likely going to end up consuming less energy than you need, especially if you're carrying 100 extra pounds of weight on you.
True, true. Well, okay, so and this was kind of the protocol every day. You guys
This was the
kept it
protocol.
simple, right? I think simple is key for our bodies. I think these days we just put way too many ingredients and things. Our body get confused. We eat too much. So simple is the key. Did you stop eating at a certain time, like for intermittent fasting, or what? It didn't matter.
We didn't do intermittent fasting, but we had a pretty strict routine where we would probably eat around 6 p.m. every day, and then we would, go for another walk at the end of the day, and then, watch TV or hang out, and then we go to bed. And so it's not like we were getting up and snacking, or we would eat, intentionally do an intermittent fast, but we would likely eat breakfast around 8 a.m., which is, more than 12 hours between the last meal of the day and the first meal of the day. So technically we were in a very good fasting state by the time we ate our first meal.
And sleep is important too, don't you think? If somebody's really suffering with their sleep, can't that affect the blood sugar?
It absolutely can affect blood sugar. It also affect decision making, right? So, if you're,
True.
yeah, so yeah, you really want to get a good night's sleep. Yeah.
Yeah. And were there any cheat days along the way or like this? Wow, good job, Bobby. Oh my gosh. Wow, amazing.
Yeah. I always say there's no such thing as cheating, there's choices. And what choice do you want to make? Well, we had made a choice. We were going to do this thing for 3 months. That's what we were going to do. And so we decided to keep doing that thing. And, I think he lost like what, 8 pounds in the first 2 weeks,
No, I lost 40 pounds in 1 month.
40 pounds in 1 month.
40 pounds in 1 month? Whoa,
Yeah, which
crazy.
was faster than I lost it, which is fine. I'm not bitter about that at all. Not a competition. Not a
And what
competition.
was the A1C? Do you remember your A1C before and after, Bobby, or no? Did you check them?
Sorry. No,
No,
I
no, no,
didn't.
that's okay. Like, do you remember like what your diabetic symptoms were? Did you have like straight up symptoms or just the tests would show?
Oh no, yeah, I had symptoms and everything. I was always tired. I would get like my feet would swell.
I mean, he'd go to the bathroom at least like 1 to 2 times an hour
Yeah.
because his body was just trying to flush sugar out all the time. It's just like it was obvious, and he was on oral medication for blood glucose, for high blood glucose. So it's like the medication was not at all a solution. This was just going to, continue to get worse. So yeah, he lost 40 pounds in the first month. In 6 weeks, they removed diabetes from his chart. His blood pressure had come down. He ended up losing about 100 pounds that year, and he ended up living with me for the rest of that year, which was awesome. And I think that the reason when you ask a question, which is how did you make it work? How did you keep this?
Yeah, to
So
make it work, well, first of all, to make it work and stay on the protocol is huge and an accomplishment. And second of all, to make it work and stay a healthy lifestyle all these years, because a lot of people, they'll fix it and then they'll be like, well, they get tempted and they go back to the other side. So this is really good. You've done this. And any advice for people watching who, want to have the discipline and mindset like you've had?
Well, there's a few different things for me. The first was making it a love-based journey, not a hate-based journey. Most change is rooted in either love or hate. You either hate the way you feel or look, or you hate something enough to want to change it, or you love something enough to want to change it. And I'm not going to deny that hate's a great motivator for change, but it's usually short-term change. Because if you go to the gym just because you hate the way you look, every time you go to the gym, it's going to be a reminder of how much you hate how you look, and that gets exhausting. You're going to get tired of feeling that way. If you make it about how much you love yourself and how you want to treat yourself well and how you want to feel well, every time you go to the gym, every time you make a plant-based meal, every time you go for a walk, it's an affirmation of how much love you have and treating yourself with love instead of hate, treating yourself with love instead of apathy, and I think that's crucial for everybody. Another thing for me was becoming an animal rights activist and photojournalist.
Wow.
And it got to where it wasn't an option anymore.
yeah.
It's the same reason if you ask someone, why don't you eat dogs?
I
Anyway,
know.
we don't eat dogs. Well, I don't see animals as an option. It's not an option anymore.
Yeah, it was amazing. We went to an event called Circle V, which is something they used to do in LA. It was an event put on by Moby and some other vegan celebrities, and they'd have a panel with people talking, and we were there. And Bobby and I had both seen the movie Earthlings, which is a documentary film about the what actually happens to animals in every aspect of exploitation. So food, clothing, entertainment, all of it. And it's they call it the vegan maker for a reason. It's not an easy film to watch. And we were there, and I said, "Hey, Bobby, see that guy over there? That's Sean Monson. That's the director of Earthlings." And Bobby he was a cinematographer. He'd done documentary films. He won a documentary film festival award for the National Geographic Film Festival. And I said, "You should go talk to him." And I know who he's talking to. He's talking to a guy named John Pierre. He's a vegan personal trainer. I know him. Let's go talk to him. So we go and talk to him. Bobby introduces himself. And sure enough, about 2 days later, John Pierre calls and says, "Hey, Sean wants to do some work. He wants to go shoot some footage. Do you think your brother's available?" I said, "Yes, absolutely. You should call him. Absolutely." And so Sean talks to Bobby, and Sean brings him in to shoot some footage inside of a slaughterhouse. And so Bobby decides to agree and go and do this thing and films this footage. And what ended up happening is that Bobby ended up becoming maybe the most prolific animal rights photojournalist in the world. No one had produced more photos documenting what happens to animals in animal agriculture and exploitation than him for like I think a 4 year stretch, something like this, 6 or 7 year stretch.
Yeah.
He shot about 1,000 hours of slaughterhouse footage. Became the organizer of the LA Animal Save the Pig Vigil, which I'm sure you've seen the celebrities that come and they give water to the pigs and everything. And I think you've saved how many animals did you save? Actually saved went and took them from places.
Yeah, a little 100 and something
animals.
Wow. And that's got to change you, like witnessing all of that.
Oh yeah. It's it's hard, but it's something that I wish everyone could experience at the right time in their life. I don't think children need to see this, but I'll never forget it. I remember standing on the sidewalk outside the slaughterhouse and it just being a normal day until the first truck of pigs came around the corner. And I remember being hit by the weight of its reality. And I remember the truck stopped for 2 minutes and we approached it and you could hear the pigs, you could smell them, you could touch them. And, the reality of things was presented to you front and center and undeniable. There it is. And as that first truck of 200 6-month-old pigs, because that's how old pigs are when we kill them in this country, pulled into the gates of the slaughterhouse, I was hit with this realization that I don't know what happens after we die. Like, I don't know if there's heaven, an afterlife, reincarnation, whatever. I don't know. Here's what I do know. And I'm pretty sure that I get to be here as this individual that I am now once. I get one chance as this person that I am now to create as much kindness and compassion and purpose and connection in my life as I can before it's over. And when I watched that truck full of pigs turn into the gates and disappear into the slaughterhouse, I realized for those 200 individuals, that was their one chance. And so after that, you know, you have a different view of things. You're not going to have a cheat day.
Mm.
And it becomes, this doesn't have to be everyone's greater than yourself reason, but for me, that's what it was.
Yeah. And what would you say is one thing about like that world of things that you wish more people knew?
Uh,
It's like a whole other episode.
Yeah, true. True.
here's what I'll say. I wish, uh, I loved what I was doing, and I loved a lot of the people I was working with. I wish that the frontline activist community could show a little more understanding.
Mm. Wow.
There's a lot of be me now or you're a bad person
Yeah.
energy that comes from that, which is unfortunate because then it becomes an us and them, not an us for the animals, right? And I think that the reason why Bobby has been successful in maintaining a plant-based lifestyle is because he took something in the world that was connected to it and he made it who he is, not what he does.
Mm.
And
Hmm.
so for me, that was, helping people who were in a similar situation to me. And my tool is plant-based nutrition. It's not just what I do every day. It's now part of who I am. I am everything that I think about, everything that I do, everything the way that I organize my life is organized around either promoting my own health or helping people understand how to do the same for them. Bobby has done a similar thing. He's taken this thing that exists. You have to eat a plant-based diet in order to to help animals. You can't eat meat, eggs, and dairy. You can't do that. And he's organized his life around helping people see the reality of the choice that when you choose to eat, red meat or chicken or any kind of animal, what consequence outside of yourself does that have on the animals, the world, other people? And he has made it who he is and his purpose to share that with the world. So it's like he said, there's no cheating. Like it's just like you lack the capacity for it. If I
Yeah.
don't do these things, not doing them isn't a choice. It's how I am. You
Exactly.
know?
And there's a lot of people, there's still, I feel like so many people on the planet that think, well, this is all fine and dandy and this sounds great and I want to do this, but they think that they can't get adequate nutrition long term without having animal products. So how would you say you guys have made it work all these years? Do you supplement or what do you think your keys are to like long-term health without having animal products in your lifestyle at all?
Great question.
I'll tell you, for me, it's just not caring about the numbers. I'm not obsessed with what my sleep score is. I'm not obsessed with what my cholesterol is. I'm not obsessed with that. The only thing I count is calories. That's it. And everything I've been doing, I feel great. Nothing's broken. It works. I'm getting everything I need. I don't chart it. I don't know it, but I feel it.
Yeah.
And I think that people are obsessed with how they feel at all the time, at every minute of every day. Oh, how do I feel now? How do I feel now? It's
Yeah.
this weird obsession with like,
The
I don't know, like
the wearable tech. Yeah.
yeah, but it's based in this fear of discomfort.
Mhm.
And I wanted to know like how obsessed people are with avoiding discomfort. And so a friend of mine, a producing partner, we did a 14-day water fast. And I remember being on like day 7 feeling great actually. And hearing people say, guys, I'm like starving to death. I haven't eaten since breakfast. And it's like, you're not
Yeah.
starving to death. You're just hungry.
Yeah.
No one likes being hungry, but guess what? You'll be fine.
Well, and to answer your question about like how do I know, I'm getting enough? The simple answer is that the majority of the most nutrient dense opportunities in food are plants.
Hmm.
That's where most of nutrition comes from, right? And so if you are building a dietary pattern that's high in fiber, that's low in saturated fat, that prioritizes plants as protein, that doesn't include ultra processed foods, and that contains enough calories for your goals, for your preferred lifestyle, right? And you're doing that with a variety of whole intact plant foods, you're likely going to do very, very well. Now, there are some things that are just, it's just a good idea to supplement, right? I think that we live in a toxic world, unfortunately. We have toxic air, toxic water, toxic soil, right? So we do not have the luxury of saying, well, we're probably going to get everything we need from food. You might,
True.
but the majority of people who are eating food today are also who are omnivores are also eating from this toxic environment, and even they should be supplementing with omega 3s. Turns out about 20% of the human population just cannot convert ALA to DHA and EPA.
Hmm.
Um, so just take an omega 3 algae supplement once a day and don't worry about it. Very protective for brain health and your heart health. D3 and B12, these are two vitamins that you don't get from any food. Wow, let's just supplement with those. Fantastic. Fantastic. I'm a big fan of creatine. I take creatine every day. I think it's fantastic. It shows unbelievable benefits for bone density, cognitive health, also muscle retention, not so much for muscle growth, but muscle retention. It does help with energy output. So you can use it as a way to have more energy output in the gym. And then I'll take like a magnesium supplement and an iodine supplement for my thyroid. The thing is this, people always get hung up on this idea. Well, it's like, well, if you have to supplement, it must be a bad diet. And so let's
Show me someone who isn't supplementing.
well, no, I'd say let's have a thought experiment then. Okay. Jillian, you and I will have a thought experiment right here. There's two diets,
Hmm.
Diet A and Diet B. This isn't anything other than Diet A. It's not vegan, it's not omnivore, it's just Diet A. Diet B is just Diet B. It's not vegan, it's not omnivore, it's just Diet B. Diet A gets you everything you need and it increases your risk of chronic diseases.
Hmm.
Diet B gets you almost everything you need. You have to supplement them a little bit, but it reduces your risk of chronic diseases. Which is the better diet?
Exactly.
It's
B.
diet B every single time. So like this idea that because you have to supplement, it must be bad. It's like, well, what happens to these people? Like, let's put that aside. When people do this pattern, do they get better? Yes. Why are we arguing? Like, it's clearly that's what I'm going to choose.
I love that answer. And you take complement, right? The same supplements I take too?
Yes. So I
Yeah.
take Complement, which is
Yeah.
a phenomenal multivitamin designed specifically for plant-based eaters. It gets you everything you need and just don't have to worry about it.
I'll link those down below. I like how they just have everything in one. And I
Yeah.
want to ask too, because people might wonder, Bobby, how long did it take you to feel good? Because everybody's just all about like, well, how long am I going to feel good? And how to get through like, I know it's very emotional because lots of times like we have addictions to food, they help numb us, cover up feelings, traumas, just like they just numb us, right? So any advice for how you got through like the emotional aspect of things in the beginning too?
Yeah, so the feeling good part is kind of like it's weird. It's like after you have the flu, you feel kind of sick for a while, and then you don't even realize it. And one day you're like, oh wait, I've been feeling better for a while. I've been feeling like 100% for a while. It's kind of like that. I know the day that I really felt good about myself and better about myself was I had lost 40 pounds, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna go back to the gym because I was embarrassed to go to the gym because I only knew what the gym looked like when I was fit and when I was an athlete. I didn't know what it was going to look like, and except for what I was imagining, people laughing at me or me embarrassing myself. And then I got to the gym, and gyms get a bad rep. Gym bros get a bad rep. I think that if the world had an environment the way the gym has his environment works, it'd be a much better place. because you won't find anybody at the gym shaming you for trying.
Hmm.
All I got from even like the alpha men and women was encouragement and celebration. Even when I didn't want to celebrate a landmark, they wouldn't let me get away with it without doing it. And it really helped me feel better about myself. And I was feeling like I was becoming part of this very healthy community, being accepted by it. And that's for me the day that I really started feeling something different about myself.
I love that. Wow. It's true. It is a really supportive environment. I think we can get in our heads like it's going to be intimidating or we're going to feel a certain way, but it's really good just to get into the gym, get moving, do whatever we have to do. And do you guys have any advice for somebody who wants to start now? Like somebody who wants to start on this journey? Like you guys have learned things maybe you'd do differently if you were to begin now. Any advice for somebody who wants to, whether they have diabetes or not, wants to start taking on a healthier lifestyle?
Well, I'll say this. First of all, if you're a person who recognizes that your life is not as you wish it would be, I want you to recognize that that's what that means is that you are a hopeful person. You recognize that not only could it be better, that you want it to be better. That's fantastic. And so you should, number one, celebrate yourself that you recognize you're capable of being more than you are, which is an optimist. Good, you're an optimist. Great, love it. Number two is you know what you want your life to look like. That's fantastic. Not everyone, a lot of people just know what they don't want their life to look like. You
Hmm.
know what you want it to look like is something else. Oh, I want to reverse diabetes by eating a healthy diet and moving. That's fantastic. I know exactly which direction I want to go. I would say then probably the best thing to do is find some kind of support team, whether it's a friend or a family member or a coach that you can be a part of and connected to, because I think that these situations that we get in, they thrive in isolation. A lot of them actually require isolation to continue on, but most of them get their asses kicked by community, right? And so what you want to do is you want to start to surround yourself with people that look like the life you want. Those people that by being around them, their behavior gives you the opportunity to do life in a healthy way. So that would be like finding a gym that you could go to regularly, like a class where these people are all excited about a specific goal. We're all here to do this class together and have a great time. That's our singular objective and get excited about it. Find maybe a potluck that you could go to once a month that's a plant-based potluck where you could be surrounded by people whose singular objective is to eat a whole food plant-based meal and be excited about it, and find a coach who could hold you accountable to specific goals.
Yeah, I think community is important because I think that we all wish our lives were a little more magical, something a little more special. And I think you find magic in other people. Uh, Being around them it inspires you and carries you and makes you feel sort of special. Makes you feel connected, obviously. But I don't think that it's possible without a community, whatever size community it is.
Yeah, it can be one person, but have one person that you can call and say, yeah, you know what? I'm having a tough day. And they can go, yeah, I bet that you're on day 5. Like this, it shouldn't feel easy right now. That's good. That's a good signal. That means you're doing the thing, right? Have someone relay that to you, go, oh, you're right. This is where it's supposed to feel hard. Thank you.
Hmm.
Like I was upset that it was hard instead of being like, gosh, this is exactly what I was wanting. I was asking for this. I wanted to be here and get through it. I am on the right track. It's appropriate that today feels frustrating. Thank you for reminding me that my frustration isn't a failure, you
Hmm.
know?
I feel like community can really help with it. I feel like you guys should have an online community. It would blow up. Do you guys have
Yeah.
that or no? Do you have that?
I mean, well, when we have we have Instagram accounts, but we don't have like
Yeah.
a
Like a
social.
monthly membership community for this,
That'd be
because it's
fun.
such a
Yeah.
big thing. And what are
Yeah.
maybe a list of signs that because some people still don't know, right? What are maybe a list of signs that come to mind for like people who they don't know if it's like the common symptoms of
Right.
diabetes? And then I have a question for you guys too from somebody.
Okay, so here's the thing. If you really want to know, am I insulin sensitive or insulin resistant? I want you to think of the acronym PILAF, just like rice pilaf, PILAF. And so what this stands for, P stands for pressure, is your blood pressure out of the healthy range. I is ideal body weight for your preferred lifestyle. So if your ideal body weight is if you're outside of the range of your ideal body weight. So for me, like if I was a marathoner, I'd be leaner than I am today, but I'm much more into weight training, so I'm heavier than a marathoner. But this is my ideal body weight for my preferred lifestyle, right? Are you at your ideal body weight? L is lipids. Is your cholesterol and triglycerides, are they within a healthy range? A is A1C. Is it consistently in a healthy range? And F is fasting blood glucose. Is it consistently in a healthy range? If all of those are within a healthy range, you are incredibly insulin sensitive. As more of those get out of the range of healthy, that's evidence that you're becoming more insulin resistant. Physical symptoms can be, brain fog, excess body weight. It can be frequent urination and feeling frequently thirsty. So if you have consistently high levels of glucose in your blood, one of the things your body tries to do is encourage you to drink a lot of water because it wants you to try to pee out a lot of excess glucose. So that's a symptom. And then there's other things. Obviously, you could have high blood pressure and high cholesterol. Those are indicators of insulin resistance.
Okay. And I love the peel off explanation. I've never heard it like that. And then, okay, so I just posted our other interview and I had a really good question. Some people might wonder, it's a little bit long, but somebody said Adam's info was clearly given and very interesting. He has a slightly different way of looking at insulin. Usually people say insulin receptors are clogged by the animal fats, but if I understood correctly, Adam is saying that to protect the cells which have excess fat in them, the insulin receptors are not letting in the carbohydrates, which means the carbs stay in the blood and make the blood sugar high. However, that doesn't help me understand why when I go from fruits, veggies, flax, and avocado to just eating fruit, my blood sugar, which has been in range all my life, goes wacky high like I've never seen it before. I've eaten whole foods, plant-based for decades and usually and absolutely believe in what Adam is saying. I assume this high blood sugar is temporary and related to detox, but would love to understand this better.
Great. It's a great question. So when people use the term clogs the insulin receptors, that's an analogy that helps people kind of really easily understand. Also, using like gum in a keyhole, right? You can't unlock the cell because there's someone on the keyhole. That's an analogy. But really, what's actually happening is there's too much energy inside of the cell, right? And the reason why is because that lipid droplet that takes a long time to shrink has grown too large, and now the cell cannot safely take on more energy. So these insulin receptor substrate molecules, these IRS molecules inside of the cell, they instruct the insulin receptor to reject the action of insulin. Don't let any more energy in. We can't tolerate more energy. It's dangerous. So for this person, she said a few things, or he or she, that when I normally eat, I eat flax and avocado and all these other things. What that sounds to me is that they eat a higher fat, lower carbohydrate meal most of the time. And then when they remove those fats and they replace them with just carbohydrates, they eat a very high carbohydrate meal. They say their blood glucose goes through the roof. Now, number one, I don't know what they mean by through the roof. A lot of times people have a very poor understanding of what an actual glucose spike is. They think any rise in glucose is a spike. So I'm not sure whether theirs even actually goes outside of the healthy range or not. But what they're noticing is that the consistent choice of keeping a lot of high fat foods in their diet all the time has raised their carbohydrate or lowered their carbohydrate tolerance, so that when they eat a high carbohydrate meal, it's a little bit difficult for those cells to metabolize that carbohydrate energy. So when you look at it from the short term, she's doing, or he or she is doing a very similar thing that a lot of people do, which is like, my blood glucose is low when I eat high fat. Then once I eat a high carbohydrate meal, my blood glucose goes to the roof. So based on this short-term mechanism, I'm going to now decide that that's evidence that carbohydrate foods are the problem, that I have to avoid high carbohydrate foods so that I don't have high blood glucose. What's actually happening is you're getting evidence of what those other meals have done to your insulin sensitivity. Look at what happens the meal you've just had as evidence for what to do. You have to look at what have you been doing for the last 5 years, 5 months, 5 days, whatever. What have the meals looked like that now when you eat just carbohydrate, why can your body not metabolize it? What's going on? Turns out that more than likely, the percentage of calories coming from dietary fat in this person's diet is outside of the range of what you would want someone to maintain insulin sensitivity, especially if they're not an athlete.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. And Bobby, I just want to ask too, like, what was a day of eating before? Like, what did you typically eat before you changed your lifestyle? Like, what was a sample day?
I mean, it was a standard American Texan diet. It was Whataburger and barbecue and
Pizza.
McDonald's pizza,
Yeah.
sodas, you know.
Yeah, everything came through a drive-through window.
I used to tell myself, this is going to make me sound so stupid. I used to tell myself, I'm going to get a cheeseburger tonight because I'll have all the veggies on
Can you believe it? Well, now look
it.
at you. It's amazing. Congratulations on all these changes and to sustain them because it's not easy. And like that's where the real results come in and the real payoff, sustaining everything all these years. And I'd love to know from each of you, what is the best part of all this? The best part of this whole experience? Like if you had to pick one thing, what's the best part? And then let everybody know where they can find you guys.
Well, the best part of all of this is that, my brother, we're like we mentioned before, we're twins, right? So we've known each other since before we were born, right? And we really have done everything together. As kids, we were inseparable. It was very much that's Bobby and Adam, and that's how it is. It's like, oh, Bobby and Adam. You guys going over to Bobby and Adam's place? And if you talk to Bobby and Adam today, it's like Bobby and Adam. And so to be a part of the profound change that moves you into the next part of your life, and to do that with your twin brother is, that's a reward in and of itself. But also it's to be in it together again, to
Mm,
be in this thing. Like my thing in plant-based nutrition and as a vegan is slightly different than his. I'm on the nutrition side, he's on the animal rights side most of the time, but at least now we're in it together again,
mhm.
that felt like we were separate for a short period of time, and that's not something we either of us were really comfortable with. It didn't feel good. It felt lonely. When you're an identical twin who's very close with your identical twin, making friends isn't the easiest thing to do because I never had to make a friend. I always had one, you know? And so I think that for me, that's been the best part.
And yeah, when you were eating plant-based and started to get really healthy, and then Bobby was still eating like the drive-throughs and everything, it must have been just different frequencies and a kind of different. I guess you guys are still twins and you're still always so close, but a different type of
Yeah.
connection, right? As
Well,
now.
and also for the first time ever, we were not living in the same state, because I had to leave to go to rehab to a different state. Then I moved into a suburb living in another state. And so for the first time, we weren't even in the same place, which was also, something that wasn't very comfortable.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, my answer is going to be very similar, and it's that just being a part of what brought my brother back to me, being a part of what helped my brother, who was an addict and had his behavior had become something totally different, to him finding his authentic self again and being together again. For me, I mean, that's better than weight loss. That, obviously reversing diabetes, knowing that I'm not going to go blind or lose my feet,
Hmm.
especially as a photographer, I don't want to go blind. But again, it's just being with the most important person in your life as in the most authentic way.
Mhm.
I love
Yeah.
that. Wow, amazing. Well, thank you both for coming on. Thank you for sharing, Bobby. We've loved having you. And thanks, Adam, for coming back. I love your passion too for this topic and your knowledge. It just comes right through you. You know so much and it helps so many people, truly.
Yeah.
So, everybody, let everybody know where they can find you guys on social media if you want me to link it down below. And yeah, this has been great.
So I have a Instagram account, Plant-Based Addict, and then you can go to my website, which is adamsud.com. And so if anyone actually would like to work with me to help them reverse insulin resistance, lose weight, develop a new relationship with food, you can book a free discovery call through my website.
Amazing.
You can find me on Instagram. It's just at Bobby Sud, my name. It's a very happy page.
It's all of his activism photography. So just trigger warning
Yeah.
for people who go to it.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks for the heads up. Great. Well, perfect. I love your passion for that too, Bobby. I'll link everything down below. And Adam and I have done a couple other great videos before this one, like I said. So I'll pop those on the screen right now. Go check those out, you guys. And be sure to subscribe for more amazing videos that help you guys live a better lifestyle one day at a time. And we'll see you in the next one. Bye, guys.